Are we live? I think we're live.
Looks like it.
Okay. Let's get the.
Just got the notification.
Perfect. We'll get started here in just a second. Anyone else who's listening to us. But first, we got a great little intro that we're going to play that's new to the show. And this is by JH Studios. Shout out JH Studios on YouTube. Because he wanted me to give him a shout out in order to use his music, which is copyright free. Either way.
This is Parker Hesse. This is Sam Branks. You have the pleasure of listening to Hawkeyes and Tallboys. Cheers, motherfuckers.
Welcome to the Hawkeyes and Tallboys podcast, featuring your hosts, Beau Freeborn.
You know, guys, even though we get 2 conference losses, we're still going to end up 9-3. We're going to win the West, for sure.
Dylan Pye.
Here's the thing, fellas. I'm going with it. 12-0, baby. We're going to do it. Let's fucking go. Woo!
And Rob Wall.
I mean, that would be shocking. But we can do it. I mean, I think we can.
The Cracker Tallboy. And go Hawks.
All right, welcome in to a great episode. This is episode 17 of Hawkeyes and Tallboys. We're coming to you live from my kitchen. Woo! Shout out me. And I think, guys, should we start off with a little cheers?
Cheers up, baby. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Go Hawks. Go Hawks.
All right, thank you guys who are watching live right now. We appreciate it. Looks like Austin Trundle, Garrett McDermott, got Logan Loftus on. Just a couple 3 to note. So thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that, fellas. And also, you might have heard our brief intro there. If you haven't, go back and rewind. Otherwise, listen to us on Apple Podcasts, soon to be Spotify, iHeartRadio, and a few others as well. So,
exactly. And so we're working on that. But we do have. I think we're getting a decent following so far from just going live on Facebook when we do our podcast, which I have been really enjoying. But today I think Dylan has an excellent joke that we thought we'd start off the podcast with.
I almost forgot.
Take it away, Dill.
So, all right, dudes. So, real quick here before we get talking sports. So, looking at you both, how many dudes does it take to screw in a light bulb?
How many, Dell?
None, dude. Sorry, lit fam. Dude.
Hey, what's up, Chubby? Hey, what's up, Chubby?
So.
I got you here.
I loved that joke. I thought that was hilarious.
I watched that video again today. That's how that got brought up, listeners. But don't worry, I swear.
Dude, stop.
We'll get to the Hawks. But.
All right. Okay, so obviously last week was week 1 in college football, and everyone was looking forward to it. We had a preseason special. Everything came down to last night or Saturday's game against Miami of Ohio. And we can kind of give you a recap here of starting from the first quarter. When we kicked off, I thought obviously Mekhi Sargent, my first impressions of him, looked excellent. And so the way that the game kind of unfolded, Miami of Ohio and their quarterback, which is Brett Gabbert.
Younger brother of Blaine Gabbert.
That's right. I saw their offense kind of in the first half taking advantage of us when we were playing in our cash defense. Ran a lot of tight end, wide receiver seams, found success. They did have our first drive was a stall out, and then I think from their second drive or their first drive, we actually stopped and we hit a field goal, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So hold on, wait. Did I say that backwards?
No, you're right, because we ended up trying to go for it on 4th down.
That's
we
right.
Tried to hit Brandon Smith on or was it Nico Reganey on a corner? It was Nico Reganey on a corner route, and I think that Nate Stanley was a little off on timing, and I think he threw it a little too far.
That's right. Route. It was turnover on downs, Nico Reganey. And I have a note here, Nico Reganey, turn your head around.
And I was going to say, I don't think that one was on
Stanley
whatsoever.
Yep.
So, but first quarter, obviously, we went up 3-0. In second quarter, actually AJ Epinesa had a tip ball that I thought was going to be picked off, and it went out into the sideline.
Straight of the air. Yeah.
Yep. And then it looked like they started, like I said, taking advantage of some seam routes. And if you go back and look at the tape, which I did this week, I really thought that Brett Gabbert was hitting some holes in our defense that was pretty impressive for a true freshman.
I was going to say, Rob, he's a true freshman. The kid's 18 years old out there slinging balls like that. Like, you guys remember what you were doing at 18? I mean, I know at this point I'm my first week in college, and I'm still trying to figure out where Dodge Street is. And all you Hawkeyes out there, you'll know what I'm talking about there. Any University of Iowa alum, but
right,
unbelievable.
He threw a couple good passes to their tight end Mailbag. He had 2 catches in there, one of their drives for about 30 yards.
And Rob, before the show, I mean, we were even talking. I mean, it looked like both receiver or Mailbag was covered hardcore by the cornerbacks and safeties too. So I mean, getting those throws in there were spectacular for him.
Yep. I also thought, DJ Johnson was our starter at the cash position, and I thought that he kind of looked a little bit shaky maybe, or struggled to find his position on the field.
He got picked on. He got picked on early and often, without a doubt. Oh, we got a little Winston coming over here. Rob's cat.
Shout out my cat. Over here. I don't know. We're
being a rascal.
He likes to jump on this table. This is besides the point. But if he does, we'll just kind of move him off.
Just keep him going.
Yep. He's cool.
Yeah, perfect. No worries.
But yeah, so DJ.
I was thinking he got picked on, the young guy out there, and I don't know if that was part of their game plan necessarily, but I think one of those seams worked that first time, and then they just kind of kept going to it, and eventually Kirk and Phil Parker, defensive coordinator, made that adjustment, and all turned out well
into the second half. But I tell you, in the second quarter, they took the lead. There was a pass. It was a good throw and catch, 11-yard touchdown catch from Gabbert to Sorensen. And that was on, Chad Lysico said it was Geno Stone. I watched it, and it was Geno Stone.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was Matt Hankins. I couldn't tell if it was 8 or 9.
Yeah, it was Geno Stone in the corner of the end zone. But you know what? A lot of the reporters and the announcers said, "Hey, he could have had better coverage on that." I thought that was a damn good throw. I mean, it couldn't have been placed any better. It was a great catch by Sorensen. I got to give him credit.
It was a diving catch.
Yeah, and Geno Stone played it perfect. There's just nothing he could have done about that, I don't think.
Yeah, I definitely think there could have been better coverage there. I also don't think, when you're inside the red zone like that, should you have a safety back there in that situation? Obviously, you got to protect the back of the end zone there. And, you look at it, you wonder where a guy like Hankins, I can't remember who the corner on that side was right now, but, you think about what that guy was doing, and I can't remember the exact coverage they were in specifically, but I remember seeing that live and thinking that Geno got beat. But again, watching that replay, it didn't look so much. That was just good pitch and catch right there. Not a whole hell of a lot you can do.
Right, and it's not our defensive line. I thought throughout the entire game, including that play, I thought we were playing really well. So we're talking about a true freshman quarterback who was under pressure, just threw a great ball. So that's really good, I guess, for them. But it didn't end up that way. So we came back after going down 3-7, and I have some notes here. Our run game was rolling. Mekhi Sargent seemed like almost every time he'd touch the ball, it was going to be 7-8 yards a touch. Torrin Young was also in on that drive. And he ran for a couple of 10-yard runs, almost spun out of one for more. Mekhi Sargent also, I thought, showed some really good hands. He had like 2 or 3 receptions on a couple of screens. We went down, and we got into a situation in the second quarter, 3rd and 16, after a intentional grounding penalty.
Terrible call, by the way. Absolutely terrible call. Because the receiver was definitely, I think it was Mekhi Sargent was in the area that he threw. It was a bad call. But
what they say, didn't it not make it back to the line of scrimmage?
No, it did. It was way past the line of scrimmage.
I think it's because he was in the pocket.
Yes, that's exactly why they called it.
But
that's a normal call, though, Beau.
Really?
Yeah.
I think,
They'll
but if you
call that
have-
9 times out of 10. You
But
can
even though
you can be 50 yards back, and they're still going to call that intentional grounding as long as you're in that pocket.
But here's
in between the tackles.
So even if receivers within 5 to 10 yards of the ball, they're going to call it intentional grounding. If you look at the replay of that, I personally thought Hawkeyes Sargent was within 10 yards of that ball.
I thought
Definitely
so, too.
overthrown.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't going to be catchable, but
Mhm.
I don't know. That's
See, I guess
it's a tough call.
Yeah, that I don't know for sure, but
Yeah.
It looked like, well, it was obviously a broken play, and Nate Stanley was kind of scrambling and retreating back, and they had a couple of, I remember a couple of maybe defensive ends possibly, that were closing in on Stanley. So obviously he was throwing it to get rid of it, but there was a receiver on the sideline where he threw it to. And so I don't know why they called intentional grounding there. I believe even the commentators in the game were like, questioning why, because there's a receiver in the.
Stanley's just too good. They know he's too accurate, so they knew something was up.
So that brought up 3rd and 16, and they called a perfect play because it looked like Miami brought a blitz, and it was a screen to Sargent. And this is the screen that they wrote about later, where Tyler Linderbaum kind of hit the D lineman and then went way out and ended up flattening their safety. And Hawkeyes Sargent goes for 44 yards.
Yeah.
At this point in the game,
Awesome.
Hawkeyes Sargent has 102 yards, all-purpose yards.
Yeah, all total.
Yep.
Say, phenomenal decision by Kirk Ferentz going and taking Tyler Linderbaum away from the defensive line, and as Parker and Sam were saying over the summer, putting him on the dark side, and hell of a player.
Could you guys look back and just kind of feel a screen was coming? Like 3rd and 16, we're down by what is it, 7-3 at that point? It's like you got to know a screen's coming.
Oh,
Like, this is typical Iowa offense.
That's a Kirk Ferentz and a Brian Ferentz and
absolutely
a Ken O'Keefe staple right there. The screen.
Absolutely.
Surprised they didn't throw a little jailbreak in. They saved that for a little later when they're on the goal line with
Yeah.
Amir Smith-Marset.
Well, that gain set up a fade in the corner to Brandon Smith over Manny Rugamba. This time it was a touchdown.
Mhm.
We go up 10-7, and then pretty much from there we don't look back. Our defense pretty much forced them into a 3-and-out after that. We had a drop pass in our next outing. We hit halftime up 10-7.
Mhm.
In the second half,
All Iowa.
it was all Iowa. So, and kind of reminded me a little bit, hearkening back to last year's first game, where we looked like we had a kind of a rough start, trading field goals and things like that. But in the second half, I thought we really kind of put it together, and I thought that it was some really good adjustment at halftime. Our defense changed from running a lot of cash to just running a base 4-3, and we forced 3 straight 3-and-outs on their offense. What do you guys think about, keeping it simple rather than switching back and forth for different defenses based on their look?
Early in the season, I like it. Long term, I don't think that's going to be an option, especially, with the innovation that the spread offense has taken over kind of the Big Ten. It seems like in probably half to 3/4 of the schools right now. So right now, I really like it. Let the guys get in there, figure out what the heck they're doing. And then kind of go from there and then start throwing in those wrinkles. So I really like it myself. I guess, what do you think, Beau?
Yeah, I'd like to see the 4-3 a little bit more, to be honest with you. And maybe it's going to go against what you're talking about, quicker receivers, quicker backs out of the backfield. But I love seeing extra linebackers out there. Just reminds me of the good old days when Iowa played tough nose football. Plus, we have all those good backers on the bench. I'd love to see a lot of those guys get some more playing time, especially with the good 4-3.
Which makes sense. But, I mean, how many 5 wide receiver sets do you see these days in the Big Ten? I mean, quite a few. You play a team like Ohio State, you play a team like Indiana, are the first 2 that come off the top of my head.
Yep.
Iowa State here in a couple of weeks is going to be big into that. So
It's
that 4-2-5 is still going to be crucial to the offense. So I'm glad they showed it a little bit just to, get the feel for it and everything, and get DJ Johnson some reps in there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be one of those situational things, kind of like you said. It's just going to depend on who we play. Like, if we play Wisconsin, we're definitely going to be running a 4-3.
Oh.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I like where you're going with that.
Right.
But,
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think I agree with Dill a little bit, but when you're looking at a team like Miami of Ohio, like we have more talent at position by position on paper than they do. And I think they kind of figured that out in the first half. And I feel like they're kind of over scheming it maybe a little bit. So it's like, hey, let's just line up and play defense and we're going to be fine. And that proved to be true. So of those 3 straight 3-and-outs for the Miami offense in the second half, we went down and scored every time. It looked like let's see, I have it here. There was a Oliver Martin fade. Perfect throw by Nate Stanley. A touchdown. It's nice to see.
Did you guys see that route he ran to?
It was nasty.
The dude is smooth as can be.
Nasty.
And he's shifty.
Hawk fans, this is what we've been waiting for. You know, you don't hear about him having the elite speed. You don't hear about him, having that elite quickness. But the dude's got hands, and he's just an absolute playmaker. And I think, I'm talking crap about his speed here, and he still probably runs, a sub 4.540. So it's still leaving me in the dust without a doubt. But, that's not the things we've been knowing him for. And the dude's just going to be a playmaker for us. And I think we saw it briefly here last week. And we'll get in that a little bit more, too.
How awesome was that, though, that we get him, week 1. We break the news here at Hawkeyes and Tallboys. We break the news about it. He comes
fans
back,
with sources.
and then his first catch is a touchdown in Iowa City, where he's only never played a game in Iowa City before. Only watched games from the stands, and then catches a touchdown for his first catch. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And it only took him one try. Obviously Brandon Smith, he's a huge red zone threat. I think with his size and his ability to go up and get the ball. We tried to do that once before. Manny Rugamba pushed him out. We ended up getting him a touchdown. And then we go straight to Oliver Martin. It looked like almost like a crossing route that was headed toward the corner of the end zone, almost in the same spot. And just goes up and catches it immediately right over the receiver. So, I mean, that was really nice to see. We come back and we ended up Amani Jones had a huge sack on 3rd and 6 that set up our next score. And to me,
awesome, Rob. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, to me, it looked like they had Amani Jones on a rush end on 3rd down. It reminded me of like AJ Epinesa last year.
Yeah. So right now they're 3rd down rushing situations. You got AJ Epinesa on one end. You got Amani Jones in the other. You got Davion Nixon in there. And then is it Brady Reef? Who's the other? Cedric Lattimore.
Yep.
Cedric Lattimore.
Oh, yeah.
So those were the 4 that you see there. 4 guys that are all capable of All-American honors. I think Amani Jones has caught a tough time being a little bit over-aggressive in that linebacker slot. They found the perfect role for him. He is going to have an absolute field day this year. He's undersized guy, but he's quick. He's obviously strong. The dude's a maniac on the field. And
one thing to say about him too, at a post-game press conference, they asked AJ Epinesa what he thought about Amani Jones, and he said, "Dude, have you seen him on special teams? Like, he goes down there, and I'm pretty sure that Northern Illinois, Miami's guy, I think, got his shit rocked every single play on all special teams just because Amani Jones goes hard every single time, and that guy has no off switch. I mean, he's just all go.
Oh, there's some
all
brown
gas, no brakes.
stains in the Miami pants.
Oh, for sure.
No doubt.
For sure.
It's incredible. Like, that dude is just a freight train running down the field.
It literally did not look like Brett Garrett even got to his full 5-step drop before Amani Jones was in his face. Now, Amani Jones came off unblocked somehow. It didn't even look like anyone touched him, but, I mean, the guy's super fast.
That closing speed is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
Sure.
I don't even think he made a full tackle.
No,
it was
he
just like he
threw him.
grabbed him. Just,
Yep.
you're done.
I think Brett was trying to go down when he saw him because he knew.
Right.
He knew. But through that brought us to a long drive where Sargent kind of was. It's typical Iowa is what I want to say, because when I was just looking through my notes, it's like run to set up the pass, and I thought this second half, like, we really showed that that's exactly what we were doing. We were textbook at it. So we were running the ball really well all game. Mekhi Sargent obviously was leading the way there. Torrin Young got involved. But then there was a Nico Reganey 45-yard catch where he really showed how fast he is.
Yeah.
And I thought, in my opinion, that if Nate Stanley would have caught him in stride, which is tough because he underthrew him. I mean, the kid's fast. That would have been a touchdown. He was gone.
Yeah, and I think that's just a chemistry thing, Rob. They've been playing together since this summer.
Yep.
I think that's going to get ironed out here, and that's what these first 4 weeks are for. Now, that being said, of course, we get a Big Ten game thrown in there, but
well, to wrap it up, we got Sargent with the 7-yard touchdown run, led by lead blocker was Brady Ross, and that kind of made up for that fumble that he had earlier.
Speaking of, I can't remember if it was this play or not, but you guys see the Twitter video out there of Kyler shoot or however the hell you
Shooter.
pronounce it. So shoot. Yep.
Shooter.
Yep. Coach Polasek, Iowa's offensive line coach, calls him Shooter now. So I think Beau was telling me that he just mixed up his last name, and that's how that nickname kind of stuck. So that's hilarious. But you see this guy, so he's listed in the Iowa media guide as being 6'2". And he even came out and said in the interviews that was total bullshit. Like he's 6 foot or 6'1" on a good day, I think was his exact quote. But this dude threw that Miami of Ohio defensive lineman around like a rag doll. Mm-hmm. And, I'm pretty sure the play, it was like right before that touchdown happened, but he ends up getting stuffed or he ends up not getting stuffed, but, it's like a 3 or 4 yard gain.
Mm-hmm.
And they fucking puts him on his ass like 17 yards down the field, just insane, like close to the goal line.
Yeah.
So
Here he is.
awesome.
Kyler
Shot, I think it is.
Shooter.
Yep, Shooter.
He's listed 6'2", 290 from Coggin, Iowa.
So that's 6'2". That's BS according to him.
And I watched that same interview too. They said he's from Northland, and that's the first ever Iowa Hawkeye football player to play from Northland at Iowa. So pretty cool to get that. Yep, they've had a lot of basketball, baseball players play from Northland. First Iowa football player.
Wow.
You know what? I mixed that up, guys. It wasn't until the next later on in the game that Brady Ross fumbled, and on that play was a 3rd and 1 play. It looked like it was going to be a fullback dive,
Which it was.
and he looked like he was trying to lateral it back to Nate Stanley, and it ended up being a turnover. Luckily, we tackled the guy who picked up the ball, but after that,
Say watching that live,
What were you thinking?
nothing to be worried about, fans. I think it's just a boneheaded move. Glad they got it out of the way now. I don't know if he got tripped up or what and realized he wasn't going to make the first down, and
Which is fine.
thought of like a last second desperation heave. But
why don't you just go down, just sink it for 4th down? Who knows?
Exactly.
Maybe go for it again. I don't know.
yeah, and he's going to get roasted for that in film study this week, I'm sure, which deservedly so. But I don't think we'll see it again. It's not as bad as Jonathan Parker. You guys remember that in not the Inside Bowl? Who'd they play? Tennessee. What the hell is that bowl called?
Not the Outback Bowl. It was
Not the Outback Bowl, but
Tax Slayer Bowl.
Tax Slayer Bowl. Thank you.
Slayer
Worst game
Bowl.
in Iowa history, and he goes to step out of bounds and throws the ball back in.
Oh God, terrible.
Well, I feel like I'll try to wrap this up a little bit, guys. I feel like we're kind of recapping for a little too long. Anyways, long story short, that because of that turnover, obviously they got the ball back here, and Gabbert makes a hell of a throw off his back foot to his tight end. Last name was Homer. A jump ball in the end zone over Merriweather, Kayvon Merriweather.
Yep.
They put him closer, cut the lead to 10. It was 24-14. From there, it was all Iowa. We got to see Tyler Goodson, who pretty much led a drive all the way down that brought up a 4th down, Torn Young 5-yard touchdown run on a huge hole by the offensive line.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say they ripped off the red shirt on Tyler Goodson. We're going to see him in every game.
He's got a burst.
Yeah. Yep. He is our home run threat we've been waiting for. He is that Akram Wadley-esque with maybe even a little more speed. And that's giving him a hell of a lot of credit. So,
well, that put us up 31-14. The very next play, Blaine Gabbert comes out and throws a pick to O.J. Mudia.
O.J. Mudia, you mean?
Yeah, right. and speaking of, guys, so I think it's Michael Ojemudia, right?
Yeah.
They were the commentators on the game were pronouncing Colbert's first name as Jaimin.
Yeah, Jaimin. Yeah.
Is that
I
how
heard
you
that
pronounce
too.
it?
Yeah, that's
Is it Jaimin?
That's correct. It's Jaimin.
Oh, I thought it was Jamon.
No, it's Jaimin.
What did we thought before?
I
Digimon?
thought it was
No, yeah,
before
we
it
said
was Digimon. We
Digimon.
thought it was Jamon Colbert.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Jamon.
Wait, and then what? They said Jaimin, right?
They were saying
Jaimin.
Oh,
Jaimin Colbert.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're reading that wrong.
Yeah, they gotta be.
They have Beth Hayes or who?
Who's
Or what's her name? Beth Malicki?
No, it was all guys.
no idea who was
Oh, we don't need
calling
to
the
be
game.
sexist about
Yeah,
it, Beau. Oh my
that's
gosh.
why I said it softly. Like,
Wow.
But I was throwing it. I mean, because I was just like, because we already questioned ourselves in the way they pronounced his name, but now all of a sudden they're calling him something different
Okay,
than
here
what we
go.
were.
Yeah.
Here we go. We're
Digimon.
gonna put this. Take that off. It's pronounced this.
Jaimin.
Wow, so they were right. Jaimin Colbert. It's not Jamon Colbert. It's
And
So we were
that's
wrong.
courtesy
So
of HawkeyeSports.com. Thank you to the University of Iowa. No trademark,
Giant.
anything infringement attempted or
Okay.
intended.
Well, we all learned something today.
Jaimin Colbert. Well, that's good to know.
All right. Well, long story short, we end up pulling this one out 38-14. We scored after that. We scored on the following drive after the pick by Ojemudia.
And you had something else to say? I was just going to say, in heaven there is no beer.
And in heaven there is no beer. So Nate Stanley finishes 21 of 30 for 252 yards, 3 touchdowns. Rushing leaders, Mekhi Sargent, 14 carries for 91 yards. He averaged 6.5 yards a carry and a touchdown.
And I wanted to point this out
Sure.
too. Looking at that, rushing yards as a team, they had 213 yards on 41 attempts, and we all remember Coach Polisek's goal of getting over 5 yards a carry.
Yep.
So
we're there.
Yep, 5.2 yards a carry.
Torrin Young contributed nine carries for 48 yards. He ran for 5.3 and a touchdown.
Yep.
Tyler Goodson ran for 9 yards, or 9 times as well for 36 yards, and he ran for 4 yards a carry. I think that was brought down. That there was one that there was a huge hole. He slipped on the turf. So I think that just comes with a little bit more experience.
A little longer cleats.
On Miami side, Brett Gabbert, 17 for 27, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick.
Mhm.
Thought he played pretty well.
Yep. Give credit where credit's due. That was a great game, especially for a true freshman coming in a night game in Kinnick Stadium.
Well, it makes sense. He comes from an NFL family now.
Yep.
Like, that's what. As soon as I heard the Gabbert name when he came out, and we had talked about this a little bit previewing the game last week, where they had this true freshman, one of the Gabbert brothers, but they had like I think they had a junior that had never played before, and then a sophomore. I don't think anybody else even got a rep that whole game. Like, it was pretty apparent that Brett, earned his spot, and I think he's going to be the quarterback the rest of the way out.
Good for him.
So yeah, that's
Good for him.
badass. Good for him.
Yeah, I'd like to see maybe how he progresses, and what type of pieces they can put around him at Miami, Ohio. So that's a good start for his career, or his college career. On the receiving end, Iowa really spread the ball around. I think it was like 9 different players caught a pass.
10 different pass catchers for the Hawks, which I didn't look it up, but when's the last time that's happened? Never.
I do not know.
Never.
I cannot. I would not be able to
No.
accurately judge, but probably not for a long time. Probably most in Nate Stanley's career, I would imagine.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yep.
Mekhi Sargent, 4 receptions for 65 yards. He finished with 156 total yards. Nico Organi had a catch for 45 yards. Smith Marset, 4 catches for 35 yards and a touchdown. Sean Byer had 3 catches for 30 yards, and I thought he looked really good.
He made some tough catches
Yes,
too.
he did.
Yep.
Like,
Yes, he did.
he's no TJ Hawkinson. He's no Noah Fant, but he's going to be serviceable this year. He's definitely a player to watch. No doubt.
Brandon Smith had 3 catches for 26 yards, but he did have that touchdown.
And had that catch out of bounds that could have been a touchdown too. It was a great.
I was going to
play.
say, and Stanley, I don't want to say overthrew him because that's not the right word, because it was technically on Brandon Smith, but you guys remember that over-the-shoulder catch? Not over down by the end zone, but should have been a huge play, and I think it was just a slight miscue on the turn on Brandon.
Well,
where
he turned his head
Yep.
and then looked over like he was going to catch like a basket catch and then just lost it. I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, Bill.
And I think that ball was thrown perfectly too, because
Yeah.
there was tight coverage from that corner. That might have been the safety coming over at that point, but perfectly thrown ball, just slightly misexecuted by Brandon Smith there. But we said it a little bit last week too. He's going to be one of our home run threats this year, and just overall, guys, I'm so excited about this receiving core after
Me too.
seeing them live action. Like, and this was the small amount that we get to see.
Mhm.
I think we all knew right away they weren't going to throw the ball a whole hell of a lot. Definitely more than we've seen from previous, game ones and the Kirk Ferentz. What is this 21st year or
21st.
Yeah, 21st year. So, yeah, awesome, pumped.
Looked great. Tyrone Tracy caught a pass Oliver Martin had 2 catches for 14 yards and a touchdown. And it rounds out the receiving core. On defense, we did have a couple of guys that really led the way, and both of them were our linebackers. So Jaimin Colbert, 8 tackles, 6 solo, and 1 tackle for a loss. Christian Welch had 8 tackles and 4 solo tackles as well.
You know what I love about that too is, and you could have probably looked at the first game last year too and saw the same thing, but not seeing a safety as your leading tackler, which I know that was one of those things we brought up quite a bit during the offseason where Jake Gervais was our leading tackler last year, and that just can't happen. You can't have a safety as your leading tackler because in a best case scenario, that means they're gaining 4 or 5 yards a carry or 4 or 5 yards of reception, and obviously 3 downs, that's going to lead to a first down every time.
Yeah, looked really good. So I was excited to see those guys get involved, and I thought we saw a lot more of Jaimin Colbert this game, and kind of really, on a tackle for a loss, I think it was like a toss or something like that. They came out wide, and he just like tracked him all the way down and tackled behind the line of scrimmage. So I thought that was really great to see. But from there, guys, overall against a pretty shoddy Miami of Ohio team, overall, I thought, obviously Brett Gabbert had a pretty decent game. But other than that, I really didn't see a whole lot from the defense that they played. And there didn't seem to be any huge standouts on the offensive end that really made us pay.
No, it was just overall, it was the game, especially in the second half, was the game you like to see from the Iowa Hawkeyes early in the season because, Kirk's been blunt about it plenty in the past where his teams are going to play their best football later in the season. These first 4 games, I don't want to say are a tune-up necessarily, but that's essentially what they are, is that, they're getting you tuned up for Big Ten season, which obviously we're jumping into next week. And
oh, my gosh, I totally forgot to mention, guys, Alaric Jackson got injured.
Oh, yeah, that was kind of a big thing, wasn't it? So,
Yep.
Very, very scary at the time. Good news, Hawk fans there. He's going to miss a couple of weeks, versus what it could have been. I think initially, everybody's thought was torn ACL.
Yep.
And I know being at the game myself, you could see him running around on the sidelines, riding the bike and everything. So, that was good to see that.
Good.
It wasn't anything too serious. And then I think it was Pat Hardy tweeted it out that somebody was tailgating with somebody who knew Alaric's mom and dad or something like that. But sounds like he's going to be fine. No ligament damage. He's going to miss a few weeks. And let's be honest. He's got NFL money on the line here at the end of the year. Take your time. Get back to 100%. Would love to have him back by the Iowa State game. But if that doesn't happen, don't rush it. Let's just get him back for Michigan and be good to go. And I know we were talking about this before too, but what were you going to say? Sorry.
Oh, no, I wasn't going to say really much. I was just going to say, why rush back when you have the offensive production on the line that we just saw?
Yeah.
All those guys played very well. Rob got us a couple more beers, so thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
Good, man.
Yep.
But think about this. There was a great stat came out about Iowa, all those Iowa linemen placing within the top 3 wrestling in the state of Iowa. We got Iowa homegrown boys coming in, taking over, and they look just as good. They were the number 2s. They look just as good as the number 1s played. I thought anyway.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yep.
So they look great. But, as far as that goes, did you have something to touch on there, Rob?
No.
Okay.
I was just going to say,
Should we
earliest
jump?
possible, maybe back for Middle Tennessee. But honestly, even if he sat out Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, I was going to say. At Middle Tennessee State, just don't even worry about it. Don't even bother.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's just get him back for something.
Big in Michigan.
Yeah, no shit. If we end up losing or if we end up not winning by as much as we should versus Middle Tennessee State, then it is what it is.
So I feel like we took a long time to cover a Miami Ohio blowout recap. So sorry to everyone listening. We can kind of move it along. Do you guys want to do?
Yeah, I was going to say let's just get in the mailbag.
Yeah,
let's just go straight to the
questions.
mailbag. So Dill's got a lot of some good questions this week from Mailbag. I remember looking over them.
So Buddy Tom, I think we've talked about him before. He's out of Solon, Iowa. Yep. Frequent listener of Hawkeyes and Tallboys. So again, Tom, we appreciate you, buddy. But he wants to know, guys, has Rutgers' addition to the Big Ten been worth it? Does the quote-unquote NYC market they supposedly bring with them outweigh the double-digit loss stains on the conference every year?
I'll start out and say no. I think that Rutgers edition has been absolutely awful for the Big Ten because Rutgers has brought nothing as far as competition goes. They are the dog shit of the conference. Them and Maryland both, I think, have been terrible additions to the Big Ten. I think they should go back. Was it the Big East that they were in prior to? Yeah, I think they should go back to that conference and play Syracuse and play Notre Dame and all these bullshit teams.
I was going to say one of them was in the ACC.
Okay. Maybe it doesn't matter. Anyway.
So Maryland was in the ACC because they used to play Carolina every year.
Anyway, that's my take on it. I think they've been nothing but shabby since coming in. And I think it's honestly another tune-up game for Iowa. So good for them for getting another conference win, but doesn't look good for us when we go look at strength of schedule.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more there. I think it was horrible move. I think it was apparent when all this conference realignment was going on. I think the Big Ten wanted Pitt, and I think they wanted Notre Dame.
Yep.
And so I'm pretty sure Notre Dame told them to kick rocks for whatever reason because they got that stupid-ass fucking NBC deal.
Yep.
Or is that NBC? Yeah, NBC Sports.
NBC or ABC, yeah.
Yep. So they got that deal.
TV deal.
Yeah, I was thinking Channel 7 from the old school cable days, if any of you still have cable. But so I know they got that deal, so that was a no. And then Pitt's still the one that doesn't make sense to me, where it's they're in the middle of Big Ten country, being in Pennsylvania once Penn State joined.
Yep.
I think that team makes so much sense in the Big Ten. And then you look at, a school like Rutgers where, overall in sports, they're, just not that great. I know they're starting to turn that wrestling program around a little bit where they had 2 national champions this past year and Nick Soriano, and I forgot the other guy's name, but, I'll think of that here in a second. But wrestling, they're starting to turn it around, but that's it.
They're not getting, and when it comes to other sports, for instance in basketball, they're not getting the recruits out of New York that you think that they would being on the East Coast.
And you're telling me a New Jersey market is the NYC market? Bullshit. That's horrible.
People from New York think that New Jersey is
a shithole.
Yeah. Which I've never been in New Jersey, so shout out New Jersey if you're listening. I can't really say from experience, but I know people that live in New York and they say, New Jersey.
Gym tan, laundry, push-ups, chapstick.
They don't care.
Jersey Shore.
Long story short, I disagree as well. I don't think that Rutgers is a good part of the conference. If I was going to add 2 teams, I would like to see Pitt and Notre Dame. I also could see Cincinnati making a case to being a great Big Ten team.
See, I think Cincinnati would be a good Big 12 team more than Big 10 with the style of offense that they run and the recruits they get from down there. I think they'd be a lot better Big 12 than Big 10.
Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting. I never even thought about them. So
yeah,
that's making me think.
Anybody else in the Midwest you think they could make a push at maybe Mizzou?
Definitely Missouri.
I was going to say definitely Missouri, but now they think they're fucking pig shots in the SEC, getting their ass kicked up and down there every year.
Thanks, Michael Sam.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah,
they do.
You
know what's weird though? Even if once you cross the border into Missouri, it feels like you're in the South. So I can kind of see maybe a little bit of that mindset.
Yeah. Good guy.
Dude, in Missouri, you can drink a beer in a car, when you're not driving.
Yeah,
and Missouri's the Wild West.
That should be a law nationwide.
It's a Hey, St. Louis is a gateway to the West.
That's for another time.
Yep,
for another time. But I love it.
There's no laws in Missouri.
And so Tom did have a second part. I'm sure this was a little bit. Tom had a second part to the question, a little bit tongue in cheek, I'm sure, but he was like, "So guys, did you reach out to Ray Rice for his Rutgers / MMA expertise to be on the show?"
Did not.
I did. He didn't text me back.
Ray's awful busy these days doing domestic violence awareness.
Dude. Yikes. R.I.P.
Is it Ray Rice, though, the last Rutgers notable football player that you can think of?
That's the last one I could think of. So
he's already out of the NFL. R.I.P.
Yeah. And so, he's got a hell of a right hook, but that's about all we know. So
next question, God.
Next question.
So Seth from North Liberty, Iowa, because we're not saying last names.
Before you finish this, Rob, let's yeah. All right.
So
all
Dill,
right, Seth, let's hear it.
And speaking of, just before we get to Seth's question, don't hate on Dill for not being able to keep up what it looks like in the podcast, because he actually shotgunned a tall boy right out in front of Kinnick.
With my boy Niall. You guys ever heard Niall Kinnick?
Definitely.
Right out in front of his statue. Just doing him justice.
That's right.
And why did you have to shotgun a beer, Dill.
So Oregon didn't cover because they're scum. Absolute heartbreaker.
That was a crazy
As,
game.
as my boy Ben Slee said.
You were so close to not being able to chug, and it would have been me and you
Doubled
if it
up,
weren't
yeah.
for Bo Nix throwing a touchdown pass. Sorry, this is way off subject, but
Mhm.
throwing a touchdown pass at the end of the game. I rewatched that game and I was like,
That's
oh
awesome.
my god,
That's an awesome catch. Awesome
Yeah.
throw.
You know, and speaking of best, just overall, it was a good day for Dill in the old elite sports book. So that's all we're going to say about that because my dad's a listener and he doesn't need to hear about that. So here we go.
Hey,
Hey,
Pike. Hey,
so let's
Pike.
hear this question
So
from
Seth from North Liberty, he's like, fellas, where does Oliver Martin stand on the depth chart? Are they saving him for ISU? What do you think?
I think they're definitely going to save him. I don't know if it's for ISU though. I think he's a top 3 performer. I think number 1 is going to be Brandon Smith, number 2 is going to be Smith Marset, and then number 3 is going to be Oliver Martin. I think he has the Big Ten experience, so they're going to use him more in the Big Ten when conference play comes. I definitely think he's going to get a lot more playing time with Iowa State. But here's the deal: you got Nico Reganey. Reganey played very well against Miami. So I think our deep threat. I think who we're going to play more, at least up until Big Ten, is going to be Nico Reganey.
Yep. And I would agree with that for the most part. One thing I did notice is so right now, and Kirk Ferentz's big thing has always been, the Hawkeyes have a very similar playbook in regards to like the NFL, where it's, especially offensively, it is complicated. A lot of stuff going on. It takes a minute to learn it. So a guy that came in just over the summer is probably not going to have every little wrinkle down just yet. And so you think about guys that have been in the program a few years. You got the Brandon Smiths, you got the Amir Smith Marsets, even, Tyrone Tracy being here, an extra year. Nico Reganey is another one that's a little bit newer as well, but has had a little bit more time, playing with the ones and whatnot. So I think right now, technically speaking, Oliver Martin's probably, 4 or 5 on the depth chart right now behind, Smith, Amir Smith Marset, Nico Reganey, and Tyrone Tracy. You could probably argue that them two are, the next guys up coming in thinking about it like that. Now, that being said, talent-wise, do I think it's going to be like that long-term this season? Absolutely not. He's going to be one of the main guys. I think he proved it this weekend, just with his 2 receptions. The dude is the smoothest route runner I've seen since, probably Marvin McNutt or even DJK. Like, those routes are just insane. I think it essentially makes him unguardable, despite lacking quote-unquote elite speed, which I think he has elite speed. So what do you think, Rob?
Man, I gotta disagree with both of you guys. Honestly, I think our best.
F you.
I think literally when it comes down to skills and experience, I think that our number 1 receiver right now is Brandon Smith, and I think our number 2 is Oliver Martin. And I think that
Over Smith Marset?
yeah, I do, because
Wild.
Smith Marset is, I think, faster than Oliver Martin, but also I didn't see Oliver Martin drop any passes. And Amir Smith Marset dropped a couple of passes. In my opinion, I thought he could have been able to catch them. And I know that he's our punt returner, and I know he's kind of a we run a lot of screens with him, obviously, to get him out in space. He's like our version of, I don't know, Tyreek Hill. You know what I mean? And which I like. I like Amir Smith Marset, but I think when it comes to being like a true like receiver, if you have Brandon Smith, who's a huge dude, and then you have Oliver Martin, who's like a route running specific type guy. You know who else is a really great route runner is Antonio Brown. He's not like
Raiders. Go ahead.
and he's not like crazy. He's obviously Antonio Brown's probably faster than Oliver Martin, but I mean when it comes to route running in the college game, if you got somebody who can create separation without using their speed the way that he does, or like to be able to cut as fast as he does on a dime, it's hard to cover that. And especially if you get the ball in space, it looked like that other pass that he caught was on the sideline. He made a couple people miss. So
Yeah.
I'm super high on Oliver Martin.
Well, and rightfully so. I mean, that totally makes sense. Like I said, I think the only thing we all disagree on is, where exactly he is in the depth chart right now. But you look at it right now, Kirk doesn't even show him on the 2 deeps.
I know.
Which, and I think
they're slow playing it, I
right.
think. Mm-hmm. I feel like they're –
See, I think it's just – I think they're slow playing him a little bit and trying to get him, to catch up with everything, acclimated, make sure he's comfortable. And
But I think that also goes to show how good our receiving core is right now. We have 5 great receivers that could step in at any moment and catch balls.
Literally, and that's the thing. Like we're talking, we're talking numbers here. All 5 are going to play
Yeah,
this
I
year,
know.
and they're all going to play a lot. So.
Which, going in, that's exactly what we needed with the guys who left. You know what I mean? Like have pass catchers. I think we have more pass. I would say that this year we have more pass catchers than we did last year.
Yep, I agree. I agree with that statement.
Since these guys ditched me.
There you go.
10-4. So, all righty. No, great question, Seth, though. And then Drew, also from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, he wants to know, guys, I'm going to knock on wood right now. He's like, fellas, is it too soon to ask if Iowa can compete for a Big Ten championship?
No, not soon enough. Let's go Hawks. We're going Indy.
I'm gonna take this one. Yes, it's too soon. It is too soon. Now to say, can we compete for a Big Ten championship? Absolutely not. That's not too soon. I think this team can, without a doubt, compete. Now to say, is it too soon to say that we could win a Big Ten championship? Way too soon. We got to go through a West yet, which I had it here. I have it written down
He
here.
has it written down. First
Yep.
off, if you guys remember in the intro, Dill says 12-0. Let's fucking go.
Oh,
Woo!
without a doubt. That's still without a doubt my prediction. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. But
Dill's woo.
listen,
is my favorite. I can't.
It's
I can't
great.
stop laughing when it's.
dude, I was fired up that first podcast when we did that. But so look at this. So to win the West, so remember we talked about this in the first podcast, but only one team since the Big Ten split into East and West, only one Big Ten West team has made the Big Ten championship without going undefeated in the West. And I can't remember what year that was, to be honest with you. But
Wait, has
So
it
that-
been
so that-
undefeated in the West?
yes, in the
Well,
West.
last year they played, or Northwestern was definitely not undefeated.
They
in
were
the
undefeated
West.
in the West. You were incorrect.
What?
Yeah, they went like 7-5 and won all their games in the West.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Actually, 6 out of 9 games that
Nice.
Northwestern ended up winning was from behind.
Right.
They came back from behind to win.
6 out of 9 from behind. Nice.
Wow. Wow, boys.
Yeah, I mean, pretty solid numbers from Northwestern.
The
even though we hate
the maturity level in this podcast is just horrible.
Ain't nothing about
Did
it.
you guys ever have a substitute teacher that would say the word mature as pronounced mature? Boys, you guys quit being immature over there.
No.
Oh,
No.
See, I had that. PHS, P-Hawks, here we go.
Anyway.
But anyways, no, so to win the West, so for Iowa to essentially do that and go undefeated in the West, they have to beat Minnie and Purdue and Illinois all at home, which, don't get me wrong, obviously absolutely doable. But then they have to go to Nebraska, to Wisconsin, and to Northwestern, which are arguably, in that upper echelon of, the Big Ten in general. So, I think that's not going to be an easy task.
No.
Do I think we end up doing it? Absolutely. Fuck yeah. Book your tickets now. I was going to say I'll pay for them if we don't make it, but yeah,
Ooh,
no,
don't
that,
do that.
yeah,
Oh my God.
no, don't do it. Don't do it. So, no, and then you look at crossover games too. So our crossover games are Rutgers, Michigan, and Penn State in case it does come to some sort of a tiebreaker, because I don't think that's the case this year. I don't think any Big Ten West team is going to go undefeated versus the West. I think they're all too similar in nature. So, and you look at that, that's a pretty brutal crossover schedule. But then listen to Wisconsin's. They got Ohio State, Michigan State, and Michigan. That
toughest.
is brutal.
The 3
That
toughest.
is
and that's
brutal.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's Wisconsin.
If there's any team that can do it from the West, I think it's either us or Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I agree.
And then even Nebraska is another one that the pundits have been talking about quite a bit. And they got Ohio State, Indiana, and Maryland. So they got arguably the easier one, but still obviously the big hitter in Ohio State, but they got them at home.
Yep.
So do I think it's too early? Yes, I think it's too early. No matter what, you got to take it one game at a time. Give you your typical bullshit Kirk Ferentz answer here. We got to take it one game at a time. And, first things first is we got to win our first Big Ten West game, which would be Rutgers is
Penn State.
crossover, but that'll be.
Penn State,
I mean
15th.
that'll count towards. No, Penn State's in the East too. So
Oh no, to be Purdue then. I'm looking at the schedule right now. So we got Rutgers, ISU, Middle Tennessee, then at Michigan, home versus Penn State.
State.
Then so our Big Ten West schedule doesn't start till October 19th.
which
Holy shit.
bodes really well for a Kirk Ferentz team.
Yep.
So that's the way he would prefer it, because I don't want to say the rest of the games aren't as important, because every Big Ten game is going to be important. But if you ask Kirk Ferentz at the end of the year and they go 11-1 and lose to Iowa State or lose to Middle Tennessee State, he's not going to give a shit. Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
No.
And the way that is, just looking at the schedule now, the way that it's set up, all 6 teams that we have to play from the Big Ten West are in a row. So home versus Purdue, at Northwestern, at Wisconsin, home versus Minnesota, home versus Illinois, at Nebraska.
And then we go to Nebraska.
That's a tough schedule too.
Yeah, and without a doubt. So I mean,
That's
like I
hard.
said, I don't think it's too early. I think without a doubt this team can compete for a Big Ten West title, but some ducks are gonna have to fall in line. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for Beau's absence. He probably didn't want to make light of it, but apparently he has to go to the bathroom. So one too many beers for our friend Beau.
That happens when you're having tall boys with the boys. I'll tell you what, that question, I think it's definitely too early to be talking about that kind of thing, especially with the way our schedule is, like we just talked about. Excuse me. But in my opinion, I think that there's a lot of Big Ten teams in general that I think are due for a rough season. So obviously Purdue just lost on a field goal.
Yeah, to Nevada in a game that they realistically probably should have won. Going back and looking at it, but
they're playing it out. So they're playing a group.
I just gave Beau crap. I'll be right back.
No, you're good. So they just gave. I watched a podcast earlier today that kind of talked a little bit about this, but it's like you're going to play at home not at home. Sorry, you're going to play at a group of 5 team in Nevada, and lose. And that's like losing to a Power 5 team, maybe like that is like a team on your schedule might be okay, but like not even in a Power 5 conference, you're going to lose to them. That's the team that beat us last year. I think that's a team that we've kind of circled on the schedule for next year or for this season. So you got Purdue, which I'm hoping, is going to be a great win for us.
And then before you keep going, I want to point out a really cool story. The kid that kicked that game-winning field goal was a walk-on freshman. Did you see the story after that? They ended up giving him the game ball and a full ride scholarship after kicking that field goal to win it.
Oh my God.
How cool is that? So continue your story, but cool for Nevada's kicker.
Yep. And cool for us because we love seeing Purdue lose. Also, Northwestern lost to a pretty good Stanford team, which honestly, guys, if we go and win the Big Ten West, we could be looking at a matchup with like a Stanford or somebody else from that
Pac-12.
Pac-12. That could be somebody out there. But Stanford's one of those teams that looked like they could. They have a brand new offensive coordinator and a West Coast offense that looked to be pretty decent. Northwestern defense is really good. They have a great running back in Brandon Bowser, but I don't know if they're all that I think last year was the year that they kind of pulled out these wins, and I think they're going to be hard pressed to be able to do that 2 years in a row. But the one team that I'm really scared about, I don't care about Nebraska. I think that they needed some defensive scores on a defense that we were already questioning going into the season.
Mm-hmm.
I was really worried about their offense and what they had to do, and it looked like the complete opposite to me on their game.
They can't run the ball. That's what I took away from that first game. Now, obviously, they're going to figure some things out, but I think that's one of Iowa's big strengths is stopping the run, and as long as you can do that versus them, I think you're going to be okay. Obviously, it's all early though, so
it's pretty early. But one team that scares me right off the bat is Wisconsin.
Yeah, but that's another team. It's you go back and look at that game, and they kicked the crap out of a crappy team. Like, congratulations.
But no, and you
at
see
South
all
Florida,
the praise they're getting.
Yeah,
they're getting so much praise. Like, oh man.
So that's the thing. They got the one move. It seems like they got the one move, and that's AJ Taylor. Yeah, Taylor. That's like their third string running back is AJ Taylor. But Jonathan Taylor. They get that one move, and then from there they look to throw from there, and they had success doing it. This past weekend. But are they going to have success doing that in the Big Ten? That's yet to be seen.
And what's weird about college football these days is that we're seeing more and more true freshman quarterbacks are coming out and being able to handle the pressure and handle the adversity that is thrown their way, which is really surprising. And I don't know if Cohen is another true freshman, but I think that he is pretty young for a quarterback for a Wisconsin team. Because it used to be Hornibrook, who transferred down to
Florida State.
Hornibrook had his one good game of his life versus Iowa.
I know, right?
So he can blow his dad.
We should have won that game.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's a team that I'm worried about. But yes,
get
it is too early to be talking about that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that later. And we, come, end of October, we'll be looking into those games. So tune in for that.
10-4. And then, so these next two questions we got, fellas, are kind of tied together. So I'll just read them both, and then we can answer them both in a discussion. But so Alex newly from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, newly married Alex. So
Congrats, Alex.
congratulations to
Congrats
Alex
on
and
sex.
Jordan. Yeah, and so it's possible he had sex.
Nice.
So it's possible.
Very nice.
But, yeah,
Big ups.
good for Alex. But he wants to know, he's like, guys, are you disappointed with how the defense performed? Are we down? Wait, sorry. Are we as good as we thought we were on D? And then, should we be concerned? And he was like, but I totally admit that Gabbert played pretty well. And then Kyle from he's originally from DeWitt, Iowa, but lives in Davenport, Iowa now. Great guy. He's like, guys, the D-line looks slow and didn't get pressure against Miami. What can we expect to change versus Rutgers? Did we just not show much? And so obviously that's a two-part question there, but, all regarding the defense. So I figured we'd lump them in together.
Sure.
I guess go ahead, Beau. What do you think?
I'll start out. First off, Dylan, you and I talked about this in the car. We didn't have any stunts. We didn't blitz any backers. We didn't blitz anybody. So I think we showed a very, very cush defense. I don't think we should be concerned at all. I think this is just a first game. Knock the dust off. Everybody get ready. Hit somebody else that's not your teammate. And, hey, let's get ready to play some fucking football next week. So I think no concerns at all. I think the defense is square, ready to rock and roll. Plus, we saw A.J. Epinesa get double team and triple team, chipped by the tight end just about every play last week. So, guys, I don't have any concerns at all. I think this defense is going to turn it on. Rob?
No, I think that's right on. And I think that they did that on purpose. It's almost like, when you have the opportunity, other teams have the opportunity to scheme against the defenses that you're running. And obviously we started out running, switching between like a 4-3 and then running like a 4-2-5 going nickel or going to cash, with DJ Johnson. And we saw like a couple different looks, and then come to the second half, they decided to just switch it over to make it easy. And I think that was obviously the best case for that game and the best case for anybody else watching that game, because it's just showing like the guys that we have in the defense that we typically play. And we have guys making plays, in our linebackers who are more athletic than, anything that they were throwing their way as far as like Miami of Ohio is concerned. So for somebody else looking at the game, I think that's what you want to see. I don't want to like show off any, snazzy blitzes or sort of schemes against like a four wide receiver spread offense, things like that we have in the bag, because that they've been probably practicing those things. But when it comes to looking at that, I mean, like you're getting basically like a generic version of the Iowa Hawkeyes until we get into our Big Ten schedule.
And just being an Iowa fan throughout the years and, living through the Norm Parker days, living through the Phil Parker days now, a common theme with these Iowa defenses has always been that bend but don't break. And I think early in the season you see that especially a lot more because, the D linemen aren't doing stunts. You're not having linebackers blitz. You're not having possible cornerback blitzes. You're not throwing all these different stunts that a defense can essentially do especially in these early games, because again, they're just trying to get the feel for things. So overall, I'm not worried whatsoever. I think, a lot of people have big expectations on A.J. Epinesa, as I think we all do. But, at the same time, you think about guys like Matt Nelson and Anthony Nelson last year who are the DNs, and, everybody forgets that a DN's primary job in a Kirk Ferentz offense is to contain. Yep. The job is not to go and sack the quarterback, whereas Epinesa was in that, pass rush specialty last year. That's why, he blew up as much as he did. So, you're not going to see a whole hell of a lot of that in the Kirk Ferentz defense, but what you're going to see is, solid defensive line play, solid linebacker play, and then seeing our secondary getting tested. And then that's why, you see those cornerbacks and safeties show out so much, especially late in the season where, you see these Phil Parker finding all these diamonds in the rough. And these guys, end up being successful in the NFL, like the Desmond Kings,
Yep.
I almost said Charles Woodson. I don't know where the hell I was going there, but Josh Jackson,
Yep.
and all these guys that obviously have had success.
Soon to be
coming
Amani
from-
Hooker.
Right. Yeah. Amani
Yeah.
Hooker, another one. So all these guys have this success here at Iowa, and that translates to the NFL because in the NFL, especially that, offensive linemen are so good that they're left on the island. So overall, my whole point is I'm not concerned. Again, I think this is the defense they want to see. They want to see the linebackers making the majority of the tackles. And as far as like getting pressure on the QB, like Kyle was wondering about, the D line, you're going to see a lot more of that when we start doing stunts and all that fun stuff. And, getting a little bit more pressure when you got some linebackers blitzing, then that's going to leave AJ Epinesa free. So there's a lot of different wrinkles that this D can throw in. And I think they were keeping it pretty basic for week 1. So.
Perfect. And obviously, like on that note, I know that AJ Epinesa had a quiet night, and they were talking about how he was getting double teamed and chip blocked and all that. But I mean, I don't think that really matters as much because any like attention that he draws opens it up for guys like Amani Jones, who ended up having that huge sack, or other guys who are capable. Our D-line isn't just one person that you have to look out for. Watch that AJ Epinesa guy. Do you remember when we played against Northern Illinois? They had that crazy, like, all-American pass rush guy.
Yeah, and they shut him down.
We didn't see
I was going to say,
anything
he's in the NFL now. I forget his name.
He's number 15.
He got drafted. But anyways,
But anyways, like, we didn't see anything from that Northern Iowa D-line. And it's not the case at Iowa. And you got one guy who can do it, but if you put anybody else on the opposite side of the field, like Chauncey Golston or something like that, these guys are going to make.
Chauncey Golston, Cedric Lattimore, Davion Nixon, Brady Reef. Like,
These guys
there's
are
just too many weapons on that defensive line to even be worried about pass rush specialties.
Mhm.
Again, because even as a defensive lineman, as an interior defensive lineman, they have different situations where I know Jaleel Johnson talked about it a few years back because he wasn't as highly touted in the NFL coming out, because a big job of the D tackles for Iowa is, again, contain. So, I know it's a lot of conservative BS to some fans, and I totally get that. And that can be frustrating, but, it takes a big load off your linebacker so they can drop back into coverage. So, if a D lineman's, holding up an offensive lineman and they'd run a dive right at him, that's when they're getting their tackles.
Mhm.
And then obviously you get the free for all, in that, I forget what they used to call it, but not the cash roll, but just basically the third down pass rush specialties. So,
Oh, sure.
Question I wanted to pose to you guys real quick. Did you guys notice that there was a couple players, and I believe one was Cedric Lattimore, another one was Davion Nixon, that didn't have their last names on their jerseys?
yeah, I don't know
What
what that
was
was
up
about.
with that?
I don't know.
That's what it almost looked like. And somebody mentioned that during the game, where it almost looked like they were like Velcroed on there.
Really?
So I don't know if that was a mess up with my boy Greg Morris and
Yeah.
the Iowa equipment staff, or what was going on there.
I
But
wonder if he just didn't earn his last name on his jersey.
it could be,
I don't know. I don't know.
That could be.
Reminded me of the old game where Michael Jordan ended up wearing the number 12 because somebody stole his game jersey prior to the game. Somebody snuck into the locker room and stole it.
Really?
Yep. So for one game, or I don't know if it was a road trip where they had 2 games in a row, but Jordan wore number 12 instead of 23
Really?
or 45.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So interesting piece of history, guys. Should we?
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Yeah, we can get going here in a second. But one thing we touched on a bit ago that I wanted to bring back up here is, so Keegan sent us either a direct message or quoted on something. He's a co-college guy. But he wanted to know, he's like, guys, does wrestling have a direct correlation to being a better offensive lineman? And I wanted to take this one first because
Go for it.
I looked.
You're a
into
big wrestling guy.
Grapple on the gridiron shirt here. Let's go. But no, so I looked into this one a little bit because, I mean, obviously, I think we've probably all heard that going throughout high school that, wrestling makes you a better football player. But I wanted to see a little bit of science behind it. I wanted to see some guys that knew what the hell they were talking about. And so, I mean, this is just a list of coaches in the past that have talked about, recruiting wrestlers, wanting wrestlers on that offensive line, wanting wrestlers on their defense, just with that tenacity, just the mentality of the wrestlers, that you have that one-on-one mentality. And so guys like Tom Osborne, a multinational champion out of Nebraska, John Madden, Bob Stoops, Joe Gibbs, and there was more. Those are just like the big names that I can think of. All pretty decent offensive-minded guys. Where they all wanted offensive linemen that had a background in wrestling. And so obviously the reason this gets brought up is because as soon as Alaric Jackson went down, who was a hell of a basketball player in his day, funny enough, but at that point, like Beau said, all 5 offensive linemen that we had on the field at once were all place winners in the state of Iowa. And funny enough, I could be crazy here, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I wanted to say Kyler Shooter, good old Shooter, but I feel like he was one that might have beaten Tristan Wirfs in a final like his junior year.
Really?
I could be crazy there, but I feel like Kyler had wrestled somebody on that Iowa offensive line. It might have been one of the Paulson brothers.
I wondered if it was because one of the Paulsons got first, one of them got second, and Schott was definitely a second placer, and Wirfs was a first placer. There's one who was in a third placer.
Well,
too.
I know Wirfs won his senior year, but I feel like he got runner-up his junior year. But
maybe
again, could be crazy. Nonetheless, it's that one-on-one mentality that you see in the wrestlers. It's just that little bit of being a crazy son of a bitch.
Yeah,
that you got to be in the trenches in the NCAA D1 football.
Well, that's really cool. I know back when I played high school football, which was shout out to Washington High School 10 years ago, but more than that. But when I played, I remember our offensive line guys were always, our coaches and things were always being like, hey, you guys should also, you all, like when we were freshmen, they'd be like, you all should go out for wrestling. It's like, and then like anytime we saw somebody on the defense, somebody on offense, or somebody get pancaked, or somebody get tackled or whatever, it'd be like, ooh, you look like a wrestler, son. And like, that's what they would like tell us. And I remember, that correlation, but instead I played basketball instead. And I just remember shooting free throws in the gym and having these guys wearing garbage bags, trying to make weight, just running around the gym as like I'm just shooting a free throw. And I was like, man, these guys are crazy.
Yep.
So I did never wrestle. So, but I can tell you that the guys who did and the guys who are successful that I've seen in person are in crazy shape, and they know what they're doing.
Well, that's
they know how to handle it.
And I can tell you, I was a dog shit wrestler with the exception of being a JV freshman MVC champ. Thank you very much. But it is what it is. No big deal.
Nice.
It is what it is. Shout out me there. But
Great job, Bill.
Anyways, no, it like totally being serious here. Like that without a doubt made me a better football player, because especially I was one, I played center, a little bit of linebacker, a lot of D-line. And so that without a doubt, just having that one-on-one mentality, and that definitely translates to football where, you line up, across from somebody and it's like, yeah, you're going on your ass. And it's just it could be conceited, it can be arrogant, it can be whatever you want. But the fact of the matter is you're going on your back, and just is what it is. And so,
it's not just mentality too, it's physicality. I'm sure everyone hears this too. It's handwork, it's the footwork, everything you got from wrestling translate 110% to football. I mean, just to get that body stance, and then get your hands extended and where to put your hands, it all translates into wrestling moves where you get all that balance and things of that.
Well, and that's what, how long has Kirk Ferentz been an offensive line coach since, probably the late, oh, fuck, longer than that. I think it's like the late 70s.
Oh, sure.
Because he was an offensive line coach or he might not have been specifically offensive line. He might have been tight ends, but he coached the 85 Iowa Hawkeye team. That was, 34 years ago now, right? Am I thinking right? Yeah. So, and so he's been offensive line coach forever. All of his boys wrestled. James, Steve, Brian, they all wrestled at Iowa City High, and, all pretty good wrestlers. So, I think there's something to it. I don't know what the math is, but without a doubt, I definitely think there's something to it. And we did have one more before we wanted to wrap up that I thought would be a good one to bring up. And sorry, guys, if we didn't get to your question. Obviously, we get quite a few. So if we don't get to it, make sure you add us, and we'll get you first next time. Promise. So, but Austin T, one of my buddies, originally. I don't know where he's originally from. Originally from Waukon, Iowa.
Iowa,
Cedar Rapids area. But he's like, fellas, after week 1, who's going to be Stanley's go-to wide receiver / tight end for the season?
I like this.
Because this could be anyone. So go ahead.
Right. So aside from the guys that he seemed to target in the red zone, which you're going to look at Brandon Smith. Yeah, I think that Sean Byer is somebody who he can look to just because of his sheer size and his ability to catch the ball, which he's shown. I think if you're going to go by receptions, it could be Mekhi Sargent.
Wow.
Oh,
That's a good take.
interesting.
That's a good take.
He was our leading receiver against Miami of Ohio. Our run game is something that we're going to rely on all year, just like we always do. Run game to set up the pass. I think that's going to translate into just like the screen we ran, just like the short bubble type of work that we do with Mekhi. I think that he's going to be a big focal point to the offense, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's somebody who is maybe one of our leading receivers. So I would say honestly that, especially there was one play, and Kirk Ferentz mentioned it in the post game presser that he did. But so there was a blitzer coming in the third quarter, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, but there's a blitzer, and Mekhi tried to launch a little bit at him to just basically flatten him, and he missed. He hit him with the side of his shoulder pad, and dude hit the ground on his feet and just went straight at he was past the line, and it was just a one-on-one him and Nate Stanley. And so Mekhi saw that, and it was going to be a broken play. Immediately turned and did one of those running back curls as a safety valve on a pass play. Nate Stanley hit him immediately. Mekhi Sargent goes for 11 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just little stuff like that. I mean, with their chemistry, they've been playing together for 2 years now. So right.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that Mekhi Sargent would be my pick for that.
Okay. And I think that's totally fair. I think Sean Byer proved a lot this past game. And not even so much because he didn't, get all the targets and everything, but I think he proved himself as being a dependable target. As we saw him catch, one or two balls in double, nearly triple coverage, seemingly impossible, Safeway, getaway throws.
Yep.
Where, he comes down with football. And this isn't very tight windows. And this isn't the same guy that, done went and messed up versus Wisconsin. Not that we're bringing up the past, but I'm not here to talk about the past.
I feel like he redeemed himself with his tight end play.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think he's going to continue to redeem himself. So I think he's going to develop himself into, he's going to be the go-to guy at tight end, no doubt. Wide receiver, that's a lot more interesting, but I think after game one, you got to put Nico Reganey in that mix where I think he's going to be the go-to guy reception-wise. Now, yardage and touchdown-wise, he might not be the guy at the end of the year, but, and I think he's pretty similar to a lot of those slot backs you're seeing these days, like the Wes Welkers,
That's where I peg him, too, like a Danny Amendola.
Yeah, Amendola. That was the other guy I was thinking of. So those slot guys that, absolutely crucial to a team, but don't necessarily rack up all the fantasy points unless you're in a PPR league like I am. So love it.
Julian Edelman.
Yeah. Yep. Julian Edelman's another one. Big one.
Who I really like?
All Patriots players. You know that?
Translates to offense, right? So for tight end, I think one thing that I really liked that we hit on, I guess at least Kirk Ferentz really hit on, was Nate Waiting is more of a blocking tight end, but I still think that there's a lot to come for Nate Waiting. So as far as tight end goes, really like what I saw from Sean Byer.
And he
caught great catches.
Nate caught a couple passes too.
Yeah, I see a lot of upside with Nate Waiting. I think he's got a lot in the tank. I think he's waited his time. I think this is going to be it for him as far as tight end goes. As far as receiver goes, I'm going to disagree with you both. A lot of guys who got a lot of targets, not a lot of catches, was Tyrone Tracy, and I really like his route running. Unfortunately, I don't think that Stanley really hit him on a couple of those routes, but I love his timing. I love his route running. I think he's going to develop into a great receiver. So Tyrone Tracy is going to be my receiver alongside of my tight end choice there.
So, Austin, it's safe to say, to answer your question, we have no answer as far as wide receiver or tight end goes because we have too many targets this year, and that's a great problem to have.
Yep.
So, but yeah, like I said, guys, we could go on forever with the questions, phenomenal questions. Again, we really appreciate you, supporting us and giving those to us. But I think we should go ahead and move into previewing, here, our next game versus
For sure.
Rutgers, don't you
For
think?
sure.
Yep. Let's get into the pregame with Rutgers.
And that's what I had a couple things that I wanted to point out here quick.
Let's get it.
So Rutgers' head coach, Chris Ash, actually hails from Ottumwa, Iowa.
Yeah.
Grew up, not a huge Hawkeye fan, but obviously being within an hour of Iowa City, you're naturally going to be a Hawkeye fan somewhat. But went and had his playing days at Drake, ended up coaching with Drake for a while, coached with Iowa State, San Diego State, Wisconsin, Arkansas, had a brief stint with Ohio State as well before accepting that Rutgers head coaching job. So he's an Iowa guy, and I was reading into some, New Jersey Rutgers reporting, whatnot, and they were all asking him like, "Oh, is it going to be nostalgic?" And God, it's almost like he's Kirk Ferentz 2.0. Oh no, that won't be nostalgic. Like, you're like, yeah, I was a fan of them, but it's been so long. Blah 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 blah. So, but yeah, I mean, nonetheless, cool. An Iowa guy coming back to coach against Kirk Ferentz, who a guy he said himself, obviously respects and has been around since, pretty much well into the time that he was coaching in the area too. Like, because he coached for Dan McCarney, he coached for Urban Meyer, he coached for some big names as well. So very, very cool. But looking into a little bit of what they got going on, so we looked into it. So first game of the year, McLean Carter for them went 21 for 31, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So what that tells me right away, especially versus UMass team that was expected to be the worst team in all of FBS, where, the Iowa secondary is going to have their chances this week. Obviously, this young gun quarterback is going to take some chances. I mean, what are your thoughts there, guys?
So I thought when I was originally, I watched the playback condensed game on YouTube, and shout out, I seriously love that they let you do that. I don't know how it is. I don't know if I just watched it before it got taken down.
That kind of like a Big 10 and 60 thing or what?
Yeah,
No.
kind of.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
like I just literally searched like Rutgers versus UMass, and then it just pops up. You just watch the game without any commercials, and it's like 35, 40 minutes. They cut out all the stuff in between plays. But anyways, so McLean Carter, I was thinking that this kid was a freshman, sophomore, redshirt guy. He's a senior, apparently.
Really?
Didn't know that. 6'3", 225 from Texas. If you look at his photo on ESPN, he looks like he's seen better days.
Crazy mullet, right?
Yeah, he looks super weird.
And
I'm a big fan of the mullet myself. Business in the front, party in the back lifestyle.
Just so we know, he's a left-handed quarterback too. Just so everyone is.
Oh, he's a
familiar
hooker,
there.
huh?
Yeah, he is.
He's a lefty. He was really, against a UMass offense, it seemed to be that he was kind of forcing his throws, and you can see that in the 3 picks. And I wouldn't rank UMass's secondary as going to be tops in the nation this year, their defense at all.
No.
But I'll tell you what, I did watch a post game of that game. And I don't know who these guys are. 3 guys in a press conference with the Rutgers Stadium in the background. They're talking about the game, and they were really excited about McLean Carter. They said, you know what? I think we did find our quarterback finally in McLean Carter. And, they talked about like, hey.
After 3 interceptions, they were saying that, huh?
Yeah.
God, we're spoiled being Iowa fans, guys.
I thought that myself. I was like, man, you guys are excited about this guy. We're talking about a Rutgers team that went 1-11 last year. We're obviously the dogs of the Big Ten. And I'm looking forward to this game, and I'm looking for Iowa to just completely steamroll this Rutgers team.
And I definitely think that's apparent. I mean, you look at their offensive playmakers, and I think so. Their big dog. Oh, what's his name? I'm trying to.
The running back,
but yeah, Isaiah Pacquiao. Let's just call him that.
I think it's Pacheco.
Pacheco.
That's it.
Pacquiao. Potato. No. Anyway, so somebody was saying his only other offer. This might be just from my recruiting knowledge, but he actually got an offer from Iowa and chose to stick with Rutgers.
Really?
So.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You know what? That's funny that you say that. I actually looked up his rivals profile, and he's a hometown kid from New Jersey. So that's I think why he stuck with Rutgers. He's a sophomore, and watching the game, the commentators kept talking about, oh, there's that burst of speed from Isaiah Pacheco. What he's known for. I looked up his rivals profile to see what his 40 time was, and I'm like, man, he does look fast. He's a 4.59 40. Oliver Martin's faster than him in high school. And I think that unless he's, gotten a lot faster in the last 2 years, which could possibly be the case, or it could just be his versus the UMass defense, which I'm guessing is not quick.
He honestly kind of reminded me a lot of Akram Wadley, just from his cuts, from his speed. I thought he looked really good against UMass. But again, that's against UMass defense.
He looked like a playmaker, but I don't think he's going for 156 yards and 4 touchdowns.
No way.
Which is what he did put up against UMass.
You know what I'm really excited for, guys, is the Rutgers defense. They gave up over 300 yards rushing, over 500. I think it was 554 yards total offense to a UMass team who was absolutely awful. So if Iowa can control the run game and can at least run 6, if not 10 yards a carry, this game's going to be over in the first quarter.
Yeah, I was going to have a field day running the football.
Oh my God!
So for those of you Hawk fans looking for crazy wild offense, I would not expect that on Saturday. I think we're going to piss pound the football until we break their backs. So.
Absolutely. And if you guys like beer and like mixies, you guys better drink them before 11 o'clock because I think this game might get a little out of hand before noon for sure.
Ooh,
that's true. It's 11 a.m. kickoff at Kinnick. Let's go back here. I actually just saw the
beautiful
weather.
Yeah, it should be beautiful weather.
That's what I know. It's supposed to be windy Friday, and it's supposed to be windy Sunday. I think Saturday is supposed to be clear.
Yeah, high of 76.
Ooh,
that'd be beautiful. That's good.
Beautiful
That's
day
good
in Iowa
weather.
City. Beautiful day. So
perfect
day for
tailgating.
I'm going to be over on Myrtle Ave bright and early, right across from the church. So if you guys want to come over and hang out, welcome to come have a beer. I'm thinking 6 o'clock, but we actually got a doubleheader the night before it, Monticello versus Dyersville Beckman. So maybe not. That might be.
The Fighting Mark Atwater's over at Dyersville Beckman. Love it.
Oh, that's right. Mark is the head coach out there, isn't he?
Nice.
Mark, if you're listening, I'm going to throw you out. So
I'll text him tonight.
You don't say one bad word to me, bud. You'll be gone.
Well, do we want to get into predictions on the
yes? So
on the Rutgers Iowa game, and then I'll pull up where College Game Day is going to be.
Cool. Perfect. So, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I can start out. I think we kind of hit the main points on Rutgers' awful offense and bad defense. I think this is going to be an Iowa game that's going to just kind of drag on. We're gonna hit them pretty hard right away. We're going to go Iowa 46 and Rutgers 13. They're going to kick 2 field goals and get a late touchdown, very, very late. But 46-13 is my guess.
That's a very Iowa score. I like it. So I was looking into the spread a little bit earlier where I think earlier in the week the spread was a little bit lower, but it's starting to go a little bit more towards in favor of Iowa. So I think when I looked today, it was 20.5 is Iowa was favored.
Geez,
20.5.
20.5. So I think they cover, but I think they cover barely. So I'm going to go with, just a classic like 14-35 is what I'm thinking. So I definitely think Iowa wins this game. I think similar to last week where I think they'll have it a little bit more in hand at halftime. So you might see like a 7-21, 7-17, 7-20, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I can't say 7-20 because I chose
35.
Yeah,
that's
so,
all.
Yeah, that doesn't add up. So
21,
yep,
7-21.
Yep. So we'll go to 7-21 at the half.
So preseason, my pick for this game was a win by the Iowa Hawkeyes, and I have the game at 31-7.
Oh, sticking with that. I think that's still a solid score.
So that'll be a 20. What is that, 4?
Yeah,
24. So I'm saying that they cover. Now this week, guys.
And now I get to go first on our game day of the week since I lost.
Yep.
That's how
So
life works.
I got to use the bathroom real quick. But before I do, I'm going to kick it off and throw this over to you guys. So College Game Day is going to be in Texas, where LSU, Texas play each other. And the line, many books started out and had LSU at -4. But looks like
What's it now? Does it say? I can always look it up quick too.
I think that might be it right there.
So okay, so
-4.
just say,
So we
they
can
got
go. We can go
LSU.
off of Elite Sportsbook quick here too.
Yeah, please do.
So this will take like a second.
So
Yeah.
what happens if I say that LSU is going to win more than 4 points? I'm
So
gonna say
that-
over the spread.
No, I get to go first. First of
I'm
all,
just
Still
asking.
take it.
yeah.
We'll be right.
No, but yeah, that's so. If LSU's -4, that means they're favored by 4 points.
Okay.
So that means they have to win by 5 points for you to win said bet.
Okay, all right. sounds good. I just wanted the clarification.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, so the line, it's actually moved a little bit more in LSU's favor. So it's LSU 5.5 now. So LSU is favored by 5.5. Bo, what do you think there?
Favored by 5.5. LSU is favored by 5.5.
So LSU minus 5.5. Yeah, I'm going to go with they cover. They're going to cover that. I think they cover it big. I think they kick the shit out of them in Austin.
Really?
Yep.
I agree with you there. I think they're going to win by more than 5.5. It's definitely going to be a close game till the fourth quarter because I think Sam Ehlinger is a great quarterback for Texas, but I think that LSU's defense is nasty.
Yeah.
And their offense is pretty damn
and so
good
listeners listening that don't know much about betting, basically what we're saying is they're going to win by a touchdown or more. So, and it's
5.5, right?
Yep. No, yep. So it's 5.5. So we're both picking LSU. What do you think?
Oh man,
You want to join us in shotgun and a beer next week, or you want to do it yourself, big boy?
that is tough. I usually do go against the grain if somebody else is saying 5.5. I mean, if you guys are both going to LSU, but this year's LSU team looks super good last week. Number 6 against number 9 Texas, and LSU is somebody who is picked to be a contender for the national championship. I don't think Texas has what it takes, so I actually will join you in that spread. So this could be a situation where none of us drink,
Or all of us.
drink.
Love it. Love it.
And just to update everybody, so far on our picks, I'm 2-0.
Nice.
And then
I'm 1-1.
1-1.
Yep.
And then both you and Dylan are 1-1. So we'll keep track of our scores, and maybe we'll have something at the end, whoever has the best.
Going to close this one out here. Looking at one last comment. We got one from Gary Creener, soon-to-be father-in-law over here. He's a chain gang for the 1-against-3 matchup in 2A, Cresco against Walk-On. He wants to know our pick. This is high school football up in Northeast Iowa, boys.
Ooh, I don't know anything about it.
I know, it's pretty tough. Dill, I think you got Cresco. If not this year, it's next year.
Dill would know if it's
Yeah,
anybody.
Just letting you know, Walk-On's the number 1 team in 2A.
Okay.
And Crestwood is now the number 3 team in 2A. So should be a pretty good matchup.
That's I've heard. So I haven't seen either team live yet, Gare. So don't get grumpy with me here, but I think Walk-On's got the edge right now, just simply based off of, that first game and, a little bit towards the end of the season last year where I think Walk-On really turned it on. So I'd say they have the edge there. So my boy Parker Hesse, if you're listening, you're probably enjoying me right now, and Gare's probably hating me and going to bring up some mean things from Beau's bachelor party over here, but that's okay. So
Hey, I'll bet you a 12-ouncer Busch Light. We'll chug on it. I'll bet Cresco wins at home. I think home's a big-time advantage there for the Cresco
Deal.
Cadets.
I got Walk-On.
Do it, bud.
Cheers. That's awesome, guys. Well, if that's everything that we got, then let me pull up some Victory Polka. And
thanks to all the listeners, too, for tuning in tonight. We really appreciate you guys. And give us a like, give us a follow on all social media platforms. And if you want to give us a rating, too, we'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, and
too.
again, if you talk to anybody who you were telling about this podcast and you think might enjoy it as well, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Anchor, we're soon to be on Spotify, like I've said. So be on the lookout there, and just really all over. Just Google Hawkeyes and Tallboys, and you'll be able to find us. So let's go Hawks. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Woo!
We'll take us out then here as soon as we get through this. But yeah, I mean, we are on. We're trying to get on Spotify. We're working with their customer support team to get that figured out. We also do have, I think, Google will go along with Spotify once we get that on, so that'll just be on the same. So,
but then you don't have any of that. Like I said, I think I Googled us once. We're on iHeartRadio and a bunch of other random ones. So Android Store podcasts.
And this episode will be able to publish as soon as we get done here, so we should be good to go.
Perfect. All right, boys, go Hawks. Thanks again.
Let's see if we can get some sound here. There we go.